Let's face it, sitting around playing with your new magic sword for an hour in order to learn its every single secret is boring. And casting a spell for 11 minutes isn't much better, but it doesn't have to be that way. A big thanks to channel supporter Spencer and others here on the channel for suggesting this topic, and Tank Class supporters for voting it to the top of the queue. I've offered some thoughts on this particular topic before, but I'm excited to dive back in today. As a reminder, or for those new to the channel, my name is Timothy, though some people do call me Tim, and I'm on a quest to reach 10,000 subs by the end of the year, and if I do, then you get perks, including a gameplay video, a series of D&D parodies, and a community hangout party where we can just celebrate together. So if any of those sound like fun, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the videos so that we can get there sooner rather than later. When it comes to identifying magic items, I've kind of already gone over the list of how you can. So you can either take a short rest, focusing on the item in order to learn its every secret, minus the fact of whether or not it has any curses, or you can cast the identify spell and learn its true every secret. And the reason why this is such a frustration for a lot of DMs is because in addition to gaining all of that knowledge, you suck away all of the mystery and wonder that comes with having an awesome magic item with a cool story and special powers that are more than just mechanical. And it can be challenging to present the information in such a way as to whether or not people can enjoy them as something other than a mechanical boost. A +1 to your attack rolls just does not engender the same degree of wonder as a magic item that cuts sharper, faster, and is lighter in the hand than others. Moving straight into the mechanical benefits and delivering those in response to a short rest or a spell cast just doesn't satisfy the desire for a lore-filled and immersive fantasy world for those people who are looking for it. And so one thing that we can do that's just a simple trick to retain some of the mystery in our magic items is to use the current mechanics to provide the lore and the hints rather than providing the answers. If we tell somebody that a weapon is lighter, sharper, and more balanced than anything they've ever held before, we are telling them that it has a modifier to the attack roll and damage without actually telling them that information. When we want them to know the final information of how it actually applies to their characters, we can benefit a lot from putting a bit of distance between the identification and the delivery. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little while, but essentially use these long rests to try and hint at what an item is capable of doing. Now, you do need to be fairly heavy-handed because you can't always count on people catching hints unless they're attached to frying pans and come smacking you upside the head, but basically, if you can tell somebody how they can find out the final answer or what something can be used for, and can hint at that and push at that and push at that and give them the information without giving them the actual mechanical information, then you can leave an air of mystery surrounding your magic items. As a recent example, in one of my games, I described an item as having Celtic runes and scroll work running up the length of the blade that had little briars and thorns carved on the edges of those, and when the weapon was put into use, little spectral barbs would poke out at random intervals and look sharp and dangerous. This was me providing a flavorful way of describing the potential extra damage that this very well balanced and beautiful rapier was going to provide to an enemy. Similarly, they found a wand that had some tiny words carved into it that were clearly the keywords, and identification had revealed that there was a transmutation aura and fact to it, and when the keyword was used and it was pointed at an object and that failed to bring forth the charge from the wand, then they had learned that obviously they needed to target a creature with this. They weren't willing to try it out against their party mates, thank goodness, perhaps, or perhaps not, but they had realized at least how they would have to go about testing the wand in order to find the answer a little bit later. And this is also sort of tied into my second thought, which is that one way we can add mystery into our items is to make sure that function and form are informing one another. If something causes additional damage or is more likely to hit, then there needs to be a hint in the item itself that applies to this, either a razor sharp edge or some deadly serration. You know, a vicious weapon would have sharp, jagged, painful looking serration added to it, perhaps as a way to inform that if you were to jab that thing in deep, the ripping and tearing it would do would cause additional harm, and aka it would do extra damage on crits. By informing people, by focusing on what the item looks like or feels like, you can add mystery back in, not by actually making it mysterious, but actually by giving them the opportunity to figure out for themselves from your description what an item should be capable of. If you're focusing on the form of an item and the function of an item and you want to add mystery in, then being prepared to give small additional bonuses or flaws to a specific item is a great way to give them a little bit more mystery. The quirks table from the Dungeon Master's Guide can be a great starting point for how to level up a magic item by just adding a tiny bit more that's just a little bit different. But also, if you're paying close attention to what a item looks like when you deliver it there, you can play off of that description with minor bonuses or minor detriments that are not going to drastically change the power level of the item, but that will give it a little bit more personality and add a little bit more wonder to the item itself. A final thought as to one way to make sure that their magic items are feeling wonderful is to change the point at which the identification process is completed, and to change it to be at a dramatic moment. So for instance, if somebody has spent an hour studying an item and you've given them some solid hints on how they can put it to use, the fact that when they go to put it to use, if you then reveal the information to them in that circumstance, it makes the buy-in that they've had stronger, so that then when they utilize this item for the first time and find out the rest of the mechanical information, even if that mechanical information is not 100% suited to that exact moment in time, then that is the moment at which they will remember the discovery, but they'll have had this lead up and this buy-in that makes it more wonderful and amazing. As an example, I recently had one of my currently over 20th level campaigns run into a Holy Avenger longsword, and their paladin was drawn to this item, checked it out, played with it during a short rest, and was determined to give it a go, even though he didn't know what it was doing, and nobody in the group had identified in that dungeon, which is a dangerous place, and so they didn't want to spend the full hour resting with the item because he needed rest of his own as well. And so he gave it a little bit of effort, checked it out a little bit closely, was willing to sacrifice one of his attunements and focus on this blade. And so I didn't tell him all the information. I didn't follow the rules as written. What I did tell him was that he was drawn to it and it felt right in his hand, felt good, and like it was putting off some form of radiance. And so he took it out into the battlefield with him, and when they later encountered a group of incorporeal undead that flowed through the walls and attacked them, he brought it forth in a mighty attack and smite. And when he did, I said that that was the moment when an hour had passed, even though it wasn't quite an hour at that point. It didn't really matter. The amount of time had passed so that he could attune to the item and bring forth its benefit. As he struck the creature and a flare of radiance happened, the extra 2d10 that the Holy Avenger longsword causes on a successful hit, and the aura of protective magic that likewise comes from that flowed out around him as he finished his attunement to the item, and I told him what the item was and let him look at the mechanics of it. But because we had shifted the point of identification away from the boring, I'm sitting here studying this, and to the action moment, that Holy Avenger longsword was raised in estimation and in mystery and awe and just magical might by that shift in place from IDing to using the item. And if I had any overarching advice, changing that time to a dramatic moment is the best way of helping people to buy in to their magic items and feel that sense of wonder around them, and to remember that specific moment in association with that specific item so that it has a more sentimental value to them afterwards as well. Hopefully that's helpful. If you're going to be improving your identification of magic items, then you're going to want to also improve the magic items themselves. You can pick up my magic item enhancement template here, and otherwise, thanks for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate you. And so here's some video of Cello checking out the joy of bags and boxes. Until next time, thanks for watching. Happy adventuring. Can I help you, sir? This is what video gamers call dual boxing.